Okay, play the video now.
Welcome to Freejoo, the global community of educators. Are you an educator who finds it difficult to engage the Gen Z learner? Are you finding it a challenge to make full use of technology for teaching and learning? Are you of the belief that good instructional design means that we need to upload text and presentation materials, videos, and quizzes onto a learning management system? Or are you still teaching all your classes using video conferencing systems? If so, then Freejoo is the place you should be at. Freejoo is a community of educators by educators. Here, you can network with educators from all around the world, collaborate on projects, exchange ideas, access the best competency-based professional development courses which help you enhance your pedagogical and technical skills as a 21st century educator. Learn to use digital tools which enable you to design your lessons easily and quickly, and so much more. Join more than 100,000 educators from more than 35 countries and get access to a wide variety of competency-based professional development courses which you can complete at your own time and at your own pace. What's more, the courses are available in several different languages and come with CPD units and certificates. No matter if you teach children at a preschool or an elementary level, or at a high school or tertiary education level. Even if you are a corporate trainer training adults, we have professional development courses for you. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for early access to Freejoo version 2 today at akadasia.com and get in queue to receive a free lifetime membership for Freejoo. What's more, if you sign up today, you will even receive access to 10 professional development programs for free. Sign up today. Visit www.akadasia.com and join Freejoo, the global community of educators.
Okay, welcome everybody. So excited to have everyone with us this pleasant afternoon. It's 3 p.m. in Singapore and Philippines at the moment, a bit cloudy on our side of the world. I am Roy Platon, co-founder and Philippine country manager for Akadasia. Here in Manila, it's a bit cloudy. Maybe in Singapore, it might be not so. And of course, welcome to all our friends. We have over 4,000 participants joining us from 20 countries. So good afternoon, good evening, good day, good morning to all of you wherever you are in the world. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Good afternoon to all my friends in Manila, and of course to all our friends in Singapore and all the other countries. Very excited to have all of you. We are live now on YouTube as well. So we have friends joining us here on Zoom as well as on YouTube. And we have our colleagues from Akadasia chatting with you. So hello, everybody, and welcome again. It's a fantastic afternoon of very interesting learnings again. So this is our second in a series of fireside chats. Like we've said in our first chat session, what is a fireside chat? Okay, it's basically, you can just imagine, let's say you're beside a bonfire, whether you're on the beach or at a picnic. Nice and cozy. You have a cup of cocoa and marshmallows, and it's a fireside chat. So you can even have harder drinks if you like. That's perfectly fine. And we're just sitting here together and enjoying each other's company and learning from each other's stories. Okay, so that's what a fireside chat is all about. So we're very happy to have all of you here with us today. We have a distinguished guest of speakers and panelists this afternoon to share their experiences. And we'll also give you an opportunity to ask your questions. Those mechanics will be explained a little later. But for now, I'd like to introduce, first of all, to all of you to who Akadasia is and what we're all about. And there's no better speaker to kind of introduce who we are than our CEO and co-founder. He has 30 years experience in business, technology, academe, and he is really a very experienced media person as well. Here to kind of give us a brief intro about what our Fireside Chat series and what Akadasia is all about. I'd like to call on our CEO and co-founder live from Singapore, Mr. Nilesh Bhatia. Neil?
Hey, Roy. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. It's wonderful to be here today amongst all of you. And I'm really excited about this second fireside chat that we are hosting for all of you. Akadasia is a mission-driven business out of Singapore. And our aim is to empower educators everywhere. We do this primarily through a platform called Freejoo, which allows teachers to network and it allows teachers to get access to a wide range of professional development content from global experts the world over. It also provides you with several digital tools which make your life easy as teachers when you're designing your content. Basically, we do whatever we can to make sure that teachers are able to upskill themselves and to provide quality education to their learners. So for us, teachers matter a lot. Teachers, I think all of you are doing a wonderful job, especially over the last couple of years with the global pandemic. And hats off to all of you as frontline workers. Today, we have a wide range of guests from different countries, including the United States, India, Singapore, and of course, the Philippines. And, as always, we at Akadasia like to kind of take a global look at all the issues that surround us. And we believe that the best way for educators to learn is by discussing these issues with prominent educators from the world over, and hence these fireside chats. So sit back. I hope you really enjoy this session. And if you have any questions later, there will be Mentimeter links posted on the various chats. So you could use those to ask us any questions. Now, I know a lot of you might be curious whether there will be e-certificates provided. Yes, there will be e-certificates provided. So please do not ask us about those. We will be providing you with e-certificates, and the details on how you can get those will be shared at the end. But having said that, sit back, relax, and let's enjoy what the experts have to share with us. And with that, Roy, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil. Great message and great intro. That's right. So for the certificates, we'll be providing you the links towards the end of the session. Approximately, it will take us around an hour and a half for this little chit chat by the fireside. So if you have like some coffee or cocoa with you and marshmallows by the fire, please feel free to go ahead and relax and do that. So now I'd like to be able to introduce at least our moderator for this afternoon. She is actually staying up late tonight for all of us for our benefit. So we thank her very much for this, as well as to all our speakers from other time zones. Dr. Kirsten Bartels is our Chief Academic Officer. She's based out of the US of A and brings her unique perspective on pedagogy, virtual learning, which comes from decades of experience and research into the best practices in education. She has taught and served in educational leadership roles at Northwestern State University of Louisiana, University of Illinois, and other prominent US institutions. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the lovely Dr. Kirsten. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, for me, it's
you.
good morning. And no, I didn't stay up. I'm too old for that. I actually took a nap. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're really looking forward to this. This is a really fun time for us to get together and talk about things that matter. And we get to draw from people literally all over the world. So I would like to introduce our panelists. And it's funny, I have a name that is very, very commonly mispronounced. So I try very hard to make sure I pronounce things correctly. If I mispronounce your name, please let us know how to say it properly. I have practiced, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to get it perfectly. The first person joining us is Mr. M. Rajun Thiagamara. No, I'm saying that wrong. Thiagaram. I can't say it now. I've tried it so many times and now my mouth is just not working. So this is fun doing things live. Thank you. I did it. I promise I did it very well until you hit record. He's a senior lecturer at Singapore Polytech. and in the School of Business with 20 years of experience in teaching modules such as marketing, overseas social innovation projects, advertising, and public relations. He's also involved in the broadcast industry as a television host, anchor, and content creator. So welcome, and we're very, very excited to have you. I want to hear more about the television host part later.
Rajan, can you just open your video and say hi to everybody?
Okay, my video is open. The name is pronounced as Tyagarajan. Okay, so I know it's difficult and so on, so that's why I just keep it as Rajan. And I'm excited to be here. There's so many nice and knowledgeable people here, and I'm going to learn from the participants as well. So I'm looking forward to being here. And please do give me an e-certificate for being a panelist also.
Definitely, absolutely.
Well, we are so thrilled to have you. Our second panelist is Pradipta Hora, who is the program director at, see, I did these really well, and now all of a sudden I'm freezing because I'm tired. And so I guess this is a good example of, when we teach, when we do this, we become vulnerable, we become nervous, and then we mess up. It's okay. That happens. And as long as we're doing our best, it's okay. So it's Aditya Birla Education Academy. Did I get that remotely correct?
Yes, absolutely. You're correct. Yes.
And you have a passion and drive for guiding teachers in devising creative teaching strategies with over 2 decades of teaching experience. You are currently not only the coordinator for the international initiatives, but you also spearhead the planning, execution, and coordination of academic programs through the, now I'm going to say it again, Aditya Birla Education Academy. And according to the sheet that I have about you, the secret to success in your view in this ever-changing world is to acquire knowledge, and most importantly, widening one's own knowledge that will cater to the demands of one's professional needs, the needs to stay curious, openness to new information, and to be ever willing to grow and learn. That's awesome.
Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you so much. A very good afternoon from Mumbai to all of you present out over here for this wonderful session today. I'm really looking forward to share my views about the topic and to hear from experts from all over the world, as well as from all the people present on this particular platform. It is learning for all of us, and let us have a wonderful time. Looking forward.
Thank you so, so much. Our next panelist is Mr. Francis Jim Toscano, who is the GS EdTech Coordinator at Xavier School, San Juan. Francis Jim is the department chairperson for the Xavier School in the Philippines. A sought-after speaker and digital learning consultant, he has shared his experience and expertise to teachers and school leaders in various conferences and workshops held in the Philippines and overseas. And in 2017, he was a Global Teacher Prize finalist. And
hello.
There you are. Good morning,
yes,
or good afternoon, sorry.
It's good afternoon here. It's a very rainy afternoon. We actually have a typhoon coming in the Philippines. So I apologize if my internet would be cut off. That means typhoon is already near me. But yeah, Kirsten, you pronounce my name correctly.
Excellent. Well, I hope you can stay safe and that the typhoon stays away at least for the next hour. Selfishly, we'd like to keep you here the whole time, but that you stay safe during the whole thing.
Yeah, I hope so. And I see that there are a lot from the Philippines here. So I hope they're safe also, because the typhoon literally went through the whole country, or is going through the whole country. Yeah. Thank you.
I have to say, it's one of the reasons I'm glad to be back up in Michigan. We don't get typhoons or hurricanes up here. Down in Louisiana, yes, but up here, no. We just get lots of snow. And our last panelist is a dear friend of mine. His name is Gary Wazalek, and he comes to us from the Department of Psychology at the University of Illinois, where he serves as the head academic advisor. I'm going to read his his bio, but there's more to him that indicates here. He has been an academic advisor at the University of Illinois for 30 years. And he started because he took a part-time job in grad school advising to pay tuition. And then he found out that that was his true calling. And he's been at it ever since. And one thing that you need to know about this is the University of Illinois is an incredibly large school. There are 45,000 students. There are 32,000 undergrads. And Gary always had this ability, whether in person or virtually, to make each student feel valued, feel listened to, feel truly heard. So I'm so excited that he's able to join us to talk about his experience with communication with students, both face-to-face and virtually. So Gary, can you please show yourself?
Greetings, thank you. That was such a sweet introduction. I appreciate that from a colleague and a dear friend, and not everyone I would get up at 2 a.m. for. So that's something. So greetings from the United States and from the University of Illinois. I'm excited to be here to talk about my experience with undergraduate students at the University of Illinois, and how they are dealing with online learning and all kinds of things. And so I look forward to hearing from the rest of the experts, although, sometimes I don't call myself an expert, right? But I look forward to this discussion. So thank you for the invitation.
Wonderful. Well, now that everyone has had a chance to meet our panelists, I think we should dive right in because I know we don't have as much time as we might like. So the first question we have is, now that we have been working and learning remotely for over a year, what do you now know about communicating in the virtual world that you wish you would have known a year ago?
Okay, should I take it up?
Please.
Now it is almost a school year is coming to an end. We started it on March 22. Now, as a teacher, as an administrator, even though I am into months in remote learning, it's not getting any easier to do the school online. It's a challenge that's not content related, but something that you might have to grapple with. So, but when I assign that, if I am using Google Classroom, then I'm going to assign that through Google Classroom and teach my students how they are going to open an assignment, how they are going to submit it, how they will be receiving a feedback. So teaching these skills all at once, it's not something separate or extra. But, it's just doing things together. So I feel that if I would have known the use of Google Classroom earlier, might be that would have made my work easier earlier also, and things would have been much better. But I knew that the people were using it, but I never bothered to use it because I thought that I am self-sufficient and then I really don't need to get into that space. So, but now when I see that, yes, this is the need of the hour, I feel that I realize that I should have known it earlier. That is one of the things which I really work on actually.
Okay, if I could join in.
Please.
Compared to a year ago, I wish I had taken the trouble to know my students better. Yes, I pretended that I know them or I knew them. But when we were conducting lessons online, when I get to see the kind of conditions that they live in, sometimes they feel embarrassed about things. Students who appeared so confident in class, when they are at home, I see a different personality. A personality which suggests that perhaps you're not so confident, perhaps you're uncomfortable, or a whole range of things, which then showed to me, for the past 20 years, I've only pretended to know my students, but only in the past year that I've got to know them a bit better. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I've been describing the Zoom interaction with our students as a different level of interaction. And I've been using the word intimacy because of the fact that I am, welcome to my basement, for example, right? And I am brought into the homes, right, of students. I am in their bedrooms, and if it doesn't get more intimate than that, then yeah, it's a much different interaction, and so I mean, we couldn't have predicted this, and it's a very, very interesting revelation, and really eye-opening.
Yeah, I'll bring in another perspective. So I'm mostly working with young students, K to 12, basically in the grade school also. It's very interesting because communication has been really a challenge for us, especially with the young learners. And if there was something that I would have, learned much better, I think that would be the idea that we can further communicate or create lines of communication, better understanding, even relationship building, even if people are not in front of us. I think right now, I think that's a very common reflection that, we have been focusing so much on face-to-face interaction, communication, that we might have not, foreseen the importance of what it means to communicate better online. And because we were not quote unquote trained, or we did not learn how to do that, and we have not taught our students to do that, I do understand what the other panelists have mentioned. Like, I didn't know Google Classroom, but I know Google Classroom, but it doesn't mean also that I'm communicating well. So something like that. The idea really behind that is that how my wish was that I could have learned how to communicate properly and even effectively using online tools. The pandemic has really, pushed us to do that, accelerated, that understanding that we can form relationship, build relationship, even online. But what is great is that we're not yet satisfied. So even after 1 year of into the pandemic, we're still trying to learn and quote unquote master online communication, because one way or another, we might be still doing online communications with our students and even our teachers and colleagues.
Yeah, I don't see it going away anytime soon. And actually, I want to go back to this issue of we are seeing our students in a very, very different light. And, when they were able to come into our classrooms and into our schools, they got to put on the persona they wanted. They got to, if they were embarrassed or didn't know how to talk about the things that were going on in their home life, they didn't have to. They could put up that front. But as they now have to sit in their homes with their family and all that dynamic going around, it's made them more vulnerable. It's made them more distracted. So we're not teaching the same students, even though that may be the exact same person that we had sitting in front of us 2 years ago. While they're home in front of a computer, they're not necessarily that same person, because they're dealing with issues that we never, how do I say this kindly? We never took the time to really view them as people necessarily, at least not as much. I joke that my parents became people when I had kids. Until then, they weren't really people. And I think that now that we see our students in their homes, we see them in a different light. And it's been very interesting and very eye-opening.
Kirsten, I just have to tell one more thing that was
Please.
really a great learning for me also. All these years we have been teaching in the classroom scenario, and whenever a question has been, and I being a mathematics person all through my life, so when a question is being asked to the students, of course the brighter ones jumps around and tries to speak about it, whatever they know the method about a particular question. But it was always a particular category of students who always felt that, no, I mean, if I ask this question, either my teacher may not like it, or, I might be it must be a foolish question with which the others might start laughing at it. Okay. So there was either one way that we could have gone to the respective child and asked him separately, did you understand? Is there any confusion or something like that? But now with this use of Padlet, even this kids at times who are not willing to open up in the classroom also, whatever the confusions they have, whatever they need to express, they try to put it out over there, which earlier at least for my case, I would say that I never tried out. I didn't even know about it, that whether I could have used this Padlet and it could have helped these other people, other kids, for me to get back to them and explain exactly what the requirements are. So that was a great learning for me, actually.
Oh, I agree. It gives us the opportunity to really tailor some educational needs and address things that maybe we wouldn't have addressed before.
Absolutely.
So there are things, I know some people are like, oh, I just can't wait to go back to the way things used to be. Let's be honest, we're never going back. But when we get to have face-to-face classes again, the stuff that we're doing now, the virtual things that are upskilling ourselves and the way we communicate, we are advancing education in new and exciting ways. Some of the new things that we've had to deal with brings me to my next lovely question, and that's about netiquette, the rules of online etiquette. And they've been created to help us be more effective online and communicate online. And I'm wondering, maybe some of you have some interesting stories about your own experience with netiquette or the lack of netiquette. And what are your top tips that you would give people to follow?
Okay, if I can get the ball rolling.
Please.
Which is related to the topic earlier about persona. The first thing is that just because we are online, I didn't want the students to think I'm going to change my persona. I have a very strict persona where my students are concerned. So I did not want them to think that I'm going to be nice and lenient because it's online, especially because sometimes parents and their siblings are listening in. So they think that I'm going to soften because there's this prospect that others are listening. It's the same. You turn up on time. And when I'm conducting lesson, all videos are on so that I can see that you are present and you're looking at me, right? So I'm not going to change just because it's online the way I teach, the discipline that I maintain. And so that is the etiquette that I've maintained, be it in over the net or in person, it remains the same.
I do agree with what Professor Tyagarajan is saying, but at the same time, there are some of the problems or some of the netiquettes which I really would like to imbibe in my students is to keep the videos on while I am teaching to them. There is something which often on we miss out, and the students will invariably, if you are teaching 20 students, at least 5 of them will invariably keep their videos off. Now, you don't even know whether they're on the other side of the screen at all or not. The only thing is that you can keep on telling it to them. But then again, that informing them should be very soft. I can't be harsh towards them again, because we understand that they are in a very different framework of mind. The same may not be what they used to be in the classroom. So that is one of the very, very important things which we struggle. But again, at the same time, I would say that I also conduct workshops for adults, mathematics workshops, as well as other core topics workshop. But very sad to say, these adults are teachers. But at the same time, these adults, all of them, in spite of repeated reminders, keeps their video off. I really don't understand. I mean, I do talk about netiquette. Yes, I agree to it. But how strongly can we put across this message is still a question mark to me, even after 15 months of lockdown period.
Well, and
If-
I don't know. Oh, go ahead, please.
Yeah. If I may share, I think that was a very interesting sharing from Professor Jorge and Professor Tia Jaragan. I'm sorry also for mispronouncing it. But for me, because my school has been doing like one-to-one iPad learning like for a decade already. So we've been very immersed that's from the grade school until to the senior high school. We've been very immersed with the idea that technology is a tool that could help us teach them learn better, right? So the idea of netiquette was not established because of the pandemic, but it has been very integral with our digital citizenship program and curriculum that is integrated in our computer education curriculum. That comes out as early as kinder, our first, official grade level here, and we were very mindful that when we teach netiquette, for example, or this digital citizenship things, we anchor them on core values that we treasure, that we promote as a community. Like for example, respect, empathy, so that regardless, because kids will always forget what they are told, right? Or the things that they're learning, but they will not forget the values that we continuously drive in them. So for example, regardless whether you're in face-to-face mode using a technology or a device, or maybe you're doing online distance learning right now, every time you interact or communicate or do something with with your tool, ask yourself whether it's respectful, whether it's you are very courteous about it, you're being prudent about it, so that whether it's like this Zoom conferencing, or maybe replying in a asynchronous discussion forum, or maybe even just emailing your classmates or your teacher, or maybe responding to some people in social media, we always encourage them to always ask, is this respectful? Always, before you click send or tap whatever, always think if it's really if that's the best reply or respond or message that you will be giving. And yeah, we're not very successful in doing that, just to be honest, because kids will always be kids. I mean, adults engage in so many churlish behavior online. These are real adults already. So while we teach our students that those kinds of things, if they encounter certain challenges or issues, we don't see them as something like, you'll be punished because you did this or that. We always use those things as learning experience themselves. So I think that's the beauty of being a teacher. I think in the lower grades, in a primary school, you can inculcate values, teach them about these things. Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you very much. I was just thinking, I can't imagine how challenging it would have to be to teach the younger kids virtually. For me, I'm fortunate. I teach at the university level. But something like, having a 5-year-old try to sit and engage in a computer screen and with all the distractions going on. So I have to give my hat off to all the teachers out there that are with us today and who are working so hard to continue to educate our students in facing these challenges. Gary, do you have anything you'd like to share with us about netiquette? I know some of your students.
I knew you were going to ask that question. Yeah. So since I work with university students and adults, adults in air quotes, right? They're still just kids pretending to be adults. With netiquette, I actually have to watch myself because my carefree personality it comes out a little bit more with online experiences, and so being in the safety and comfort of my own home with not a lot of monitors around me, I really have to be careful sometimes about how I am interacting with the students, because again, as I mentioned, again, that intimacy, right? I mean, we are in each other's houses and kind of thing virtually. Yes, I'm working on that. Let's just put it that way. But it's an attempt to relate with the students, and 18 to 21-year-old students relate differently, and again, trying to create a good working relationship with students. But I also have to remember that I am part of a larger institution, and I have to try to be professional, even though every now and then a word slips out every now and then that I shouldn't be saying online.
I think, yeah, and it's something about being in your own home. I mean, for me, I like that I have the green screen in the background, because then it doesn't seem like it's so much my home. But before I got this, I mean, you could see the bed behind me in the office and everything else, and my students were getting this different view. So you let your guard down a little bit, and maybe you need to be a little more conscious and careful about that. I am also being conscious and careful of time, because I know we have lots and lots of questions that our audience members have asked. So I am now going to ask both Roy and Neil to join us. I know Neil had some thoughts that he wanted to share about netiquette, but then they're going to come in and help moderate the questions from our fabulous audience.
Yeah. So Kirsten, thanks for that. Actually, before we move into the audience questions, I just wanted to kind of share a few things on the question of netiquette that you posed. The thing is this, a lot of us believe that video screens should be on at all times, but I have a slightly different view, which I would like to share, because I think the bottom line is that not all students have access to internet connectivity or digital devices at the same time. We work with a lot of public school teachers around the world. In fact, we have more than 100,000 over teachers on the Freejoo platform at the moment, and we work with them almost on a daily basis. And I've seen the challenges that people are facing just to get online, forget about anything else. And because of that, even for us, the way we deliver our lessons has completely changed. So when it comes to netiquette, we don't really force or insist that participants need to have their cameras on at all times, because sometimes we realize that that could be a real challenge for them. The internet connectivity could be very slow, or maybe they don't even have a really good quality camera. Or sometimes what we've also seen is there is a lot of background sounds. So in Philippines, I know, for example, and Francis, perhaps you can let me know if you agree with me. But sometimes, there is sounds of motor, that what do you call it? That the electronic, the motorcycle taxis.
Yeah, motorcycle.
Taxis, tricycles, in the background, and sometimes we'll have chickens and cows and dogs barking in the background, and all of that stuff, eats into, and it's basically fairly distracting in a classroom environment. So what we do is we design our lessons in such a way that the teachers and the students don't necessarily have to be online at the same time. Even if they can't do it, or even if they are unable to, they can still get to the lesson later. So what we do is we record all the sessions and we put it up online. We are available to them at certain specific times. And we also insist that we don't run classes at fixed time schedules. I think a lot of schools are actually running classes as per regular timetables. And I think that's another issue, because if you are going to be running a class of 30 to 40 minutes back to back, say 5 Zoom sessions or 5 Google Meet sessions in a day, can you imagine the fatigue that you and your students will face? Because communicating online is not easy. It's not easy. Roy and I, we are in meetings back to back every day. And by the end of the day, we are completely famished. And this is just meetings. Forget running a class. You will be tired as teachers, and so will the students. So what we do is we basically design the lessons in such a way that we give the option to the learner to decide if they want to sign in online, or if they want to do an asynchronous bit, they can learn on their own. But instead of running it as a timetable, we run it as a deadline. So we give everybody a deadline. We say, okay, by tomorrow at I don't know, maybe 4:00, you need to complete all of these assessments, so on and so forth. So this is something that that we practice, and it has been fairly successful. And I would urge all teachers out there to actually try that out. It'll make your life easier as well, and your students will absolutely love you for it. Yeah. But having said that,
if I could just throw a curveball here,
yeah.
Why are we so fixated with videos?
Yeah, exactly.
There was a time when we had teleconferencing where we didn't have to look at each other, but just talk, and anyone who wanted to chip in will chip in. So I may want to go a step further. Maybe for the next time the lesson starts, I'm going to ask all of them to switch off the videos and just maintain everything. Just listen to the voice. That's about it. You see.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the bottom line is this, right? At the end of the day, when you're communicating, yes, you do have your eye contact. You have your the way you gesture and stuff. That is important. But most of the students, how are they sitting? Probably like this, or probably like this, right? Like this, or probably something like this. Some of them are in bed. I've seen videos on YouTube of classes being run where students are in bed, they are eating. Now, those things, I think, again, do they really matter? I mean, in a sense, yes, they do. But at the same time, to me, as a facilitator, I think what is more important to me is, are the students understanding the lesson? Are they able to apply the lesson and show me the outcomes based on my objectives for the lesson? I think that is the bottom line. Now, of course, if I see a student sitting like this or sleeping in bed, of course, I'm going to tell them, hey, listen, if you want to sleep in bed, then please put your camera off or sit straight. All right. But the point I'm trying to get at is from a netiquette perspective, from a communications perspective. I think I actually agree with Francis when he says when he mentioned that this has to be part of an entire digital transformation process across the campus. It's not about one teacher trying to implement this. This really has to cut across at a campus level where ground rules are set for students and teachers alike. And that digital transformation process takes time. And I think the biggest bottleneck, and I'm going to be blunt here, sorry, teachers, but the biggest bottleneck is the teachers. The teachers need to change the mindset to allow for that digital transformation to happen. And it will take time, but once you get there, I think life will be a lot more easier for everybody. At least that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, if I can just interject. Okay.
No problem. Carry on.
Go ahead, Pradipta. Please go ahead.
Okay. Actually, Neil, whatever you said, I do agree with you also. But at the same time, this is quite a debatable part. Because being into the administration, at the end of the day, when you have about 30 teachers working under you or 40 teachers working under you, and you get mails from at least 10 to 15 of them saying that I was in such and such classroom, and there were such and such students, give a list of the students' name, that these students were not, they were present on the screen, it showed, but we didn't know whether the videos were not on. So we didn't even know whether they were there at all or not. And when we called out their name, there was no response from the other side. So, this type of confusion, there are a lot of disciplinary problem also that keeps coming up.
Yep.
Did you get it?
So I think this is where the digital transformation thing comes in, right?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
So from a top-down perspective, if we can say, okay, it doesn't really matter if the students have their cameras on or off, as long as the lesson objectives are met, and they are able to explain what they have done. They're not plagiarizing stuff. They're not copying and pasting things, and they are able to answer. Whether it's a written essay or whether it's a project which you ask them to build, at least they should be able to demonstrate learning at the end. Because I think as teachers, and I think Kirsten, I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well. As teachers, what is more important to us? Is it whether the cameras are on, or is it can their students demonstrate learning at the end?
Sorry.
Well, and it's funny. Go ahead, please, Francis.
Sorry, I just wanted. This is such an interesting conversation, and one thing that really guided my school and the school that I've worked with is we don't jump immediately on protocols or policies. We ask ourselves why we're doing such things. For example, I don't think that there should be a blanket rule on video on or video off, but whether you're asking the students to for example, mute their mic when someone is speaking, turn their videos on during class, it should be clear for the community why you're doing that. There are some schools that says their protocol is video on, mic unmuted, but there's an exception. If your internet connection will not be able to let you do the video on thing, you're excused. But the basic expectation is your videos are on. There is such thing as asking ourselves why we're doing this. Some schools, especially for the primary schools, because kids love to see the faces of their classmates. So that's why I'm saying that there should be no blanket rule on this. Look at the context of your students. I know that internet connection is a big problem. If that's the a problem itself, ask yourself. So then, why are you doing synchronous classes if internet is a big problem?
Agreed.
Right? So it goes back to lesson design. But what I just want to point out here is ask yourselves why you're doing that, because video on, video off, there are advantages to it, disadvantages to it. But how are you able to accommodate everyone in the school community should be the primary driving force behind it also. There are things, there are debates whether, the synchronous and asynchronous thing. Again, look at the context of your students. If you're teaching lower grade students, some people would say synchronous would help because number one, they can't read yet. So how would they know, how would they go to your asynchronous activities, right? So there's this kind of developmental appropriateness that goes with it. I know that some schools are doing like, Sesame Street, Dora-like thing, teaching. It's very engaging because the students do not know how to read yet. So they can't do asynchronous work unless you expect the parents or guardians or home learning supervisors to help them. So this is a very interesting conversation. My 2 cents really is, ask yourselves as a community, ask why you're doing this. Second, is it inclusive? Is it accommodating everyone? And third, is it developmentally appropriate for your kids? For higher students, let them swim in asynchronous work. But if they clamor for synchronous activities, why not? Right? So there.
Great.
Well,
Thanks, Francis. I just want to touch on what you said. I think my takeaway from what you said was the context of the students. And I'm just going to tie this into a lot of the questions in the chat, as well as in the QA in Zoom. I'm sure there's a lot more Mentimeter, and I think Neil can touch on those. But a lot of the questions in the chat are related to that. For example, the difference between situations of public and private school teachers. There was one comment there. Maybe the public school situation is a bit different, maybe more challenging. But again, so other comments here is there a one-to-one rule in terms of observation rules, right? And all of these things. So again, I go back to what Francis is saying, the context of the student, right? So some techniques might apply and some don't, but as long as what is the end goal? So the end goal in mind is the learning objective met? Whether that's a young student or an older learner, is the learning objective met? So just a couple of other questions in the chat. So Rowena is asking, she noticed some students are very good with technology, but not using it for academic purposes, more for entertainment. Okay, that's a good observation. And then Edward is asking, many students are probably more digitally able than teachers. What is the best possible solution to make a teacher look good when facing the situation? And I'll just touch on this before I get the panel to discuss it. I'm saying is, again, the context of the students. Whatever technique you apply, cameras on, cameras off, it won't always work. Okay, it's not gonna work all the time. You will have not 100%, approval. Some students will say, I don't want to show my face, I'm too shy. Some people would prefer to, let's say, record a video or type something or do something else. But that is okay, as long as you're trying to connect with as many students as you can and then adjust for the others that have a different learning style. And don't be discouraged if your one rule does not solve all your problems. That is just the nature of online learning. We have to be flexible. Okay, comments from the
Roy,
panel.
I want to actually do something else if I can, because there's
Okay.
something that I've seen over and over again that I think, and I know we're running out of time, but I see this is a huge concern with a lot of people. And I want to bring up the idea of parents.
Yes.
Because we now have parents literally in our classrooms. They weren't there before, or in our advising meetings, or however. And a lot of people have said, well, what about the parents? The videos are off because the parents are doing the homework for them or answering the questions. But how do you all incorporate or work with parents who are now either an active or they remain an inactive part of our students' lives? What do you do with parents?
Yeah, can I answer that, because that's one big
Please.
challenge for us, especially in the lower grades. Number one, I think we need to accept that the fact that parents should be there. We miss our parents during face-to-face interaction. How often did we complain when we call for parents and they're not coming in, right? For parent-teacher conference. But right now we are complaining that why are they there, right? But the big question really is why? Why are you scared of? Are you scared of how they will see you teach? But you've been teaching for the longest time, right? So I think it's really because we were not that we're not that open to our parents before. And now that they are in our virtual classroom, I mean, what can you do? Will you be able to ban them? No, that's one thing that you need to accept already. Some people are asking, what if they intervene, or what if they do things for them? I think, number one, again, you need to talk to your parents before you jump into whatever form of online distance learning. Did you sit down with them virtually and told them, this is your new roles right now? These are the things that we expect of you. Number one, when your kids are studying, you can sit beside them, help them, because we need their help. What if their internet breaks down or their computer breaks down? Technical concern for young kids, that's not within their digital skills. So if you don't want parents to be there, who will fix it? Right? No one. So parents will always be there. Home supervisors, learning supervisors will be there. Now you have to establish, like for example, if they're doing assessment, ask the parents not to do it. If they're doing it, I don't think, if they're teaching their kids, I don't think that's a burden for us ethically, morally, because that speaks of them as a parent, right? If kids tell you that, hey, teacher Christine, my mother helped me answer this. Now's the thing that you become teacherly to the parents and then tell them, have a conversation with them, right? I think we need to be more open to and accepting of what's really happening right now, because at some point we need to push for stronger parent-school partnership. They are our partners, not our enemies. But maybe because they don't really also know what's happening right now, right? So maybe we need to talk to them also, because, a lot of people are saying parents are stakeholders. When you say parents are stakeholders, they're not just there for donations, because they're investing also. You should be in communication with them, right? So some people are saying also they answer the printed modules for them if they're doing non-online. Well, maybe ask the parents to become models of integrity and honesty. That's why I just want to mention this also. I don't think we should stop with achievement of learning outcomes, because we want to still have holistic education. So that means character formation. So if the students are lying on their bed, if they're not sitting properly, in real life, if they do that, maybe they'll get back to us and say, well, my teacher during our online class did not correct me when I was sleeping and or lying in my bed and during the class. So I don't think that was necessary. So maybe we missed the chance of teaching them also, character formation. So stuff like that. So I think we need to look into not just achieving the learning outcomes also, but even holistic, personhood or character formation that complements, the academic achievement of our students. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for parents to be active partners in their children's learning.
Also, if I could just share, I think if the students are young learners, okay, elementary school or kindergarten, I think parents have to be involved. Absolutely need to be involved. And in fact, a lot of the times your lesson instruction design has to be designed with the parents in mind rather than the students, because you need the parent to understand the lesson and then communicate that to the younger learner. And also, I think for students at that age, it is not advisable for them to be on the internet by themselves. So that is the other issue. So for me, if the age appropriateness, when you start looking at that, if it's a younger learner, parents have to be involved. Of course, for older learners, that is not always the case. Now, to look at some of the comments which the attendees are posting in the sense of how do you stop parents from completing assessments and assignments for their students. I think, again, it all boils down to how you've designed your lesson and how are you designing your assessments. I think we need to get away from that traditional approach of, that assessments have to be in a certain way. We really need to start exploring different ways to assess students. And they may not always be, like a multiple choice question or an essay type of a question. In fact, what we do at Akadasia is a lot of the assessments are things which are built into projects, which their student actually has to do. They have to do something to show how they're going to, what they have understood and how are they going to apply this learning somewhere else. Another good strategy to do it is to kind of get them to explain whatever they have learned to somebody else. The parents can't do the explaining on live video. They have to do it themselves. And if they haven't understood the concept, how are they going to explain this to others? So there are a variety of ways to actually design your assessments. And of course, that itself is going to be a whole different fireside chat coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I'm not going to go into details of that, but just to kind of touch upon it briefly, you need to relook at your assessments and how you're designing your assessments if you think that parents are helping the kids. Okay, so with that, shall we move into Mentimeter? We've got a lot of questions in Mentimeter. I've got close to 71 questions in Mentimeter. I'm not sure whether we will have time to run through all of them, but I'm just going to pick a few which I find to be very interesting, and then we'll just see what happens from there. So I think the first question that I want to kind of get into is, in some contexts, we have more than 60 and sometimes 100 students in a classroom. How can we enhance interaction between students in such classes while taking into consideration that communication is the main objective of a language class? Anybody?
I take it up. I think so. One way of doing it is either if we could break them up into Zoom breakout rooms, okay, and give them a topic, break them up into breakout rooms, give them a specific time, but at the same time, myself being a teacher, I just can't sit back and think that they will discuss and they will come back to me. So I need to keep on jumping, hop on to different, randomly at different breakout rooms to check out what type of discussions are taking place and whether they are constructive at all or not. So, and then giving them a specific span of time for the discussion, they need to come back to the main screen again, and then we can open it up. So this is a possibility where we can involve as much a student as possible for a particular discussions.
Okay, the breakout room idea is good, but what I try to do is that in terms of topics, I try to make sure that there are different topics to be approached by each of these groups. Because if all of them are going to attempt the same question, when one group has presented, then the 12 other groups will be bored with the answers. This way, with different topics assigned, they know that all of them have pieces of the puzzle that they have to put in. You see?
Okay.
So that's the approach I take.
Yeah.
Anyone else would like to share before I move to the next question? Gary? Francis, anything to share? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So the next question is also about groupings. So groupings, it is where everybody was given the chance to give their opinions based on what they're doing. Each one should be given a task to do so that nobody is left while doing their work. What other benefits can we get from these kind of strategies?
That's why I advise those teaching in the higher grades or higher ed, learn from teachers in the primary grades, because I think that is the expertise of teachers in the elementary grade school. It is very important that you assign tasks or roles, indispensable tasks. That means if the person does not do this, that means the whole group's work or task will not be able to get a high grade, or the thing will be very incomplete. To ensure that everyone is really contributing, but make sure that it's not just a BC or a task that is for for making students BC as a goal. I think it's important to assign tasks that contributes so much on the success of what is being asked of them. Number one, aside from achieving the learning outcomes or the goal for that specific learning activity, remember that when you're asking students to do group work or tasks or collaborative work, they employ a lot of skills, soft skills or essential skills, like communication. But communication has subsets of skills. Collaboration have subsets of skills. Number one, my favorite is conflict resolution. Have you taught your students how to do that? That's why I love the grade school, because we teach students to do that. What if your ideas are different from each other or you don't agree with each other? What do you do? So aside from the strategies that will, enable your students to achieve the goal for that activity, be mindful when you plan this. Ask yourselves, what skills, essentials or soft skills am I developing in my students? Because in the end, the biggest temptation is for the teacher to always look at the product that they will be presenting, because hello, there's a presentation to the class out there. But are you there to really see the process? Because the process itself for those kinds of activities might be even more important than the product itself. Because at the end, the product may be incorrect. Their ideas might be wrong. That's where you come in to correct the misconception. So does that mean that you failed with that group work? Well, if you focus on that product, you might think. But if you also looked at the process on how they were able to do that, then you can find beauty in it. I mean, I love messy classrooms. Even in face-to-face, I get paranoid when everyone's quiet and, doing their work. I don't like that kind of classroom, because I want to hear my students interacting. I want them to, not necessarily be in conflict with each other, but to challenge each other, because it's part of it. So yeah, a lot of strategies, but look at the soft skills that you are developing in the students, because those are more important, transferable, skills.
I think I would just like to kind of provide a real example of what Francis just mentioned. So Rajan is probably aware of this because we were colleagues at Singapore Poly before, and I used to teach entrepreneurship to tertiary level students. So this is how we would do actually group work, and this can be translated both online or within a face-to-face environment. In our entrepreneurship program, what we would do is we would divide the students into various groups. Each member within the group would be given a specific role. So for example, because it's a startup that they're learning about, I would tell them, okay, one of you is a CEO, one of you is a CFO, one of you is a CTO, and the other one is probably a marketing officer. So you have 4 clearly distinct roles. And like Francis mentioned, if one person does not do his or her part, the entire group's submission suffers at the end of the project. But to make matters even more difficult and exciting for me, what I would do is I would get them to present, at the end of the semester. So it's typically like a startup pitch. So we would get them to pitch their business in about 5 minutes. And at the end of that, there would be a Q&A. Now, this is where we would twist things up. So over there, we would actually ask finance questions to the technology guy, the technology questions to the marketing guy, and so on and so forth. The idea behind that is, are you sharing and teaching each other whatever that you have learned? Because if you are not able to learn something and understand it, it becomes very difficult for you to share your knowledge with somebody else. So we would then have the Q&A opened up to say, okay, the CTO, can you tell me why do you have, or what is your cash flow projections for the next 3 years? So obviously if the finance student hasn't shared that information or hasn't been able to explain that information, then the group or the student is unable to answer. But again, as Francis mentioned, I wouldn't never, ever grade them on the quality of the product delivered or the quality of the pitch delivered. It was always about the process. I want to see what the process is at the end of the day. How did they come to that conclusion? And even in terms of grading and assessment, we would build in a peer-to-peer grading component where I would tell each member in a group to grade the other from A to F. But you can't share the same grade with more than one person. So basically, every person has to have that either A or B or C or D. You can't give 2 people the same grade. And this is also primarily to make them understand that when you are assessing people in a workplace, and if you have to give, bonuses and things like that, you can't be just, doing that in a real work environment. Of course, I was teaching, at a tertiary level. So these kids would be actually going out there into the workforce immediately. So they need to learn these skills in a workplace. So that's how we would actually do the grading, whenever we are doing group work in the entrepreneurship classes. So I hope that kind of gives a real example and a context on how this can be applied.
Neil, I'm looking at the clock, and unfortunately, I think we've spent a lot of our time. I don't know if we have time for one more question or if we should ask our panelists to do our final thoughts, because I know there's some housekeeping as well. Yeah.
Roy, are we good with one more question?
Yeah, I think we can do one more question before the final thoughts.
Okay, so let me just go back to Mentimeter. I'm just going to pick one randomly. Okay, so there was one very nice question about culture. Yeah, here it is. So what culture barriers to student voice have you faced in your country or context? What strategies worked for you to work around these? I think that is a great question, considering that we have participants from all over the world at this moment, different cultures.
Okay, the challenge I face, I don't know whether this is cultural or not, that my students believe that there's only one correct answer. If there's other alternatives that they're thinking of, they wouldn't voice it because they feel that it's out of the norm and therefore will be wrong. So the way I handle it is that I said, most often it is those answers that go out of textbook that turn out to be more interesting, creative, and all of those things. I said, if there's only one right answer for marketing, then why are there so many marketing textbooks? There should only be one, which suggests that there are alternatives. So by encouraging them, I get to open up. It's very difficult. I know, I think Nilesh might identify with it, but it is something that I face in Singapore.
One thing
Anybody
that
else would like to share?
I did something that I think might help people when you're trying to get your students to realize that their voices matter. First day of class, when I'm talking about what's going on and how they earn their grade, I will tell them that random quizzes are worth 10%. And then I'll ask them how many quizzes they would like. Because to me, it really doesn't matter if I give them 5 or 10, I don't care. And then they'll ask me what kind of format the quizzes is, and I'll ask them what kind of format. Because then I'm establishing in our very first meeting that their voice matters and that we are in this learning environment together. So that's one thing that I used to do when I gave quizzes. I don't give quizzes anymore, but.
Great. So I think that's all the time we have for questions. And Kirsten, I'll pass the time back to you to round it up.
Thank you so very much. Well, again, I just want to sincerely thank everyone for being here today. I know there were a lot of questions, and we will keep these discussions going in July when we launch the new version of Freejoo. These conversations will keep going on with your questions being answered. Hopefully the panelists will be willing to come back and engage in the conversation virtually, asynchronously. But now I would just like to ask each of our panelists their final thoughts, words of advice, anything they'd like to make sure that they share.
Okay, if I could start, I think we are in a state of transition. What we are trying to do is the old method of teaching, the lesson content and everything, we are trying to deliver it online. We have not fully adapted to online teaching at all. So that's where the struggle comes in. And it's through sessions like this that hopefully all of us can learn and modify and improve the way we are able to deliver content online.
That's very, very true what Dr. Tyagarajan, what Mr. Tyagarajan was saying. So I too also feel that, though it's a completely different platform and it's quite a challenging task for the teachers actually. Otherwise, if it would have been in a classroom situation for a teacher like mathematics person would have gone to the class directly, okay, open such and such exercise and start doing such and such problems. So that will not be possible. It becomes a task out over here, okay. So now we need to keep the communication very clear with the students and if possible with the parents also, irrespective of which particular grade, whether which particular group of students you are teaching, then things becomes very, very easier to take it forward.
Yeah, I see this process. It's an evolutionary process that we're all going through. And in nature, we're given millions of years to adapt and evolve. And we've been given 15 months to evolve. And so I think the sense of trying to pretend we're masters of this. Yes, we are masters in the classroom. When they're in my environment, right, I am in control. But I've heard that word vulnerability and to just, yes, we will make mistakes as educators because I mean, and the students will as well, and the parents will as well. And so having that empathy and that understanding and that vulnerability, I think goes a long way.
Yeah, so in connection with what Gary has said, it's always, personally as an individual, I always ask, why am I doing this? So please extend that kind of reflective activity. It's not just for the sake of asking why, but engage yourself and the whole community in that reflective exercise of anchoring yourself on what really matters, what you value as a community, so that regardless whether it's still in the pandemic or maybe after the pandemic, whatever you've learned from this experience, you'll be able to bring them with you when you go back to school, or maybe when you design a kind of school that is resilient regardless where you're doing face-to-face or online learning, because like what Gary has mentioned, you've learned from your experience, right? So I hope that you keep yourself anchored on the things that really matter for the school community and of course for the students that you are teaching. So don't be afraid to ask why. And if the answers are not perfect or if the answers scare you, I think that's good because you've been bothered. And the moment you are bothered, then that is the big push that you're waiting for. So yeah, it's an evolutionary process. Gara's mentioned about it. I was really, smiling because the idea of growth mindset is really, really needed right now. Learn from your experience, learn from everyone's experience, and make sure that you look at it as a community, not as an individual, so that you can carry each other towards your goal as a community. So there.
Excellent. I think you're all absolutely right. I think that we need to be willing to take some risks to show our students that we're not perfect, and how we deal with the situation where, you may have practiced how to pronounce someone's name over and over again, and then all of a sudden you're ready to do it and your mouth freezes. Well, that's a teachable moment. As much as you may personally be very embarrassed, it's still a teachable moment, and your students will learn how you handled that and how they then can handle conflict and things. So I think that as we struggle through this, if we are genuine and honest with the struggle, then the students know that they're not alone, and we are all in this together, and we're all learning together and becoming stronger because of it. Thank you all so much for taking the time. Special thanks to my dear friend Gary for being willing to get up in the middle of the night to chat with us. It was very good to see you again, my friend. I'm going to turn this back over to Roy, and my sincere thanks to our panelists and all the teachers out there. You are doing amazing things. As a parent and as an educator, I so value and are appreciative of what you do. You are the front line. Nurses and teachers, we have hopefully started to see how valuable they both are, and maybe we will actually appreciate you more going forward. Roy, it is back to you.
Thanks so much, Kirsten. Before I also do the housekeeping, I think Neil has just a couple of final thoughts before we wrap up.
Thanks, Roy. First of all, I would like to thank all the panelists here. Thank you very much for a very insightful and very exciting discussion. In fact, I can see people on the chat. They're actually requesting for us to extend it by another hour. So it's definitely quite interesting for all our attendees. Also, thanks to all the people who are attending from all these 25, 26 different countries. Thank you so much. And I would just like to wrap it up by echoing something that Francis mentioned earlier about having a growth mindset. I think that's very important, and especially from coming from an entrepreneurship background. In fact, I always tell people that growth mindset is something that everybody should have, regardless of which profession you're in. But I think in addition to that, something that I would like to share with our teachers here today is to have a creative mindset as well. And this is something that we will be covering in one of our other talks. But that creativity, or rather creative mindset, will actually help you design your lessons in a slightly more interesting and an engaging way for your learners, so that they're not bored, and more importantly, you are not bored. So just keep that in mind. And of course, we will be covering all these topics. We have a whole series of events which Roy will talk about, which are coming your way soon. And if you are really, really, really interested by the discussion today, I can see people asking me, on the questions about hybrid learning, about blended learning, and somebody suggested that we should do a conference. Well, I would suggest to all the attendees, please do sign up for a free account on a version 2, which is going to be coming soon. Once you have access to version 2, whatever you're talking about, blended learning, hybrid learning, communication, 21st century education, all those topics will be available for your benefit, for you to upskill yourselves. And also conference, that's a good idea. We will perhaps think about it, and we might actually come back to you with something along those lines a lot faster than you can imagine. Thank you once again to all the panelists and all the attendees. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Neil. Okay, so just some housekeeping before we depart. We have a couple of reminders, okay? So I just have to demonstrate. So some of you are very excited. You wanted to extend for 1 hour. You want to have an international conferences with all these great speakers we have. So to find out more about the next session, please sign up on freejoo.com, on akadasia.com. And there are some questions on how to join. So again, I will demonstrate it here very clearly, just so that everyone can see how you can join Akadasia. All right, so if you go to akadasia.com, www.akadasia.com, so this is our website. Okay, spell Akadasia with a K, Akadasia, okay? And then go down here, and then you see the sign up button here. Please click on the sign up button. And then you will fill up this very simple form. Once you enter that, and please enter your referral code, so it can be Web 2021 or AKA 2021, what have you. So if you enter that referral code, we know where you came from, and we will notify you of the next conferences and sessions that we have. Plus, you will get access to professional development courses and other freebies and benefits. Again, part of the community, and this is how we will connect with each other. So please remember to click on the sign up form and complete this, so that you will know when is the next Akadasia session, because I learned so much from it. I want to be able to learn, so please sign up there. And thank you again very much for your patience on staying with us until the end of the session today. So what we're going to do now is we have a exit survey that we will post. So may I request our friends Akadasia to post it in the Zoom chat as well as in the YouTube chat. Okay, so we have a link for the exit survey. So please click on that link for the exit survey. And then when you're able to click on that link as it's posted, you will be able to earn get your certificates emailed to you directly after you fill up the exit survey. Okay, so again, we have a limited number of certificates that we can issue per day. So, but don't worry if the daily limit is hit. You can try again in 24 hours. It will be refreshed the next day. So please click on the exit survey, fill that up completely, and then your certificate will be emailed to you directly. Make sure that you spell your email correctly. Again, it might bounce. Type slowly when you're entering your email address so that you will receive your certificate after you fill up the exit survey. All right, and then so there, I hope that's posted on YouTube and here in Zoom. As you click on that, we'll be together again 2 weeks from now. Okay, this is only the second in our Fireside Chat series. Our third Fireside Chat will happen on June 16. You will get emails on how to join that, and that'll be about collaboration. Okay, so we'll focus on how to collaborate incorporating collaboration in your lesson design. And I hope you guys will will sign up for that session 2 weeks from now. There's a question, the referral code, please you can put my name or you can use Akadasia 2021 for the referral code. Go ahead and sign up so that you know when the next sessions will be. So in 2 weeks from now, July 16, about collaboration. Okay, so on behalf of Akadasia, Neil and Kirsten, great job. Sorry, June 16. Thank you so much. June 16, 2 weeks from now. Jim, Gary, Sir Rajan, Pradipta, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. On behalf of Neil and Kirsten, this is Akadasia. Maraming salamat. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. And see you in 2 weeks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Freejoo, the global community of educators. Are you an educator who finds it difficult to engage the Gen Z learner? Are you finding it a challenge to make full use of technology for teaching and learning? Are you of the belief that good instructional design means that we need to upload text and presentation materials, videos, and quizzes onto a learning management system? Or are you still teaching all your classes using video conferencing systems? If so, then Freejoo is the place you should be at. Freejoo is a community of educators by educators. Here, you can network with educators from all around the world, collaborate on projects, exchange ideas, access the best competency-based professional development courses which help you enhance your pedagogical and technical skills as a 21st century educator. Learn to use digital tools which enable you to design your lessons easily and quickly, and so much more. Join more than 100,000 educators from more than 35 countries and get access to a wide variety of competency-based professional development courses which you can complete at your own time and at your own pace. What's more, the courses are available in several different languages and come with CPD units and certificates. No matter if you teach children at a preschool or an elementary level, or at a high school or tertiary education level. Even if you are a corporate trainer training adults, we have professional development courses for you. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for early access to Freejoo version 2 today at akadasia.com and get in queue to receive a free lifetime membership for Freejoo. What's more, if you sign up today, you will even receive access to 10 professional development programs for free. Sign up today. Visit www.akadasia.com and join Freejoo, the global community of educators.